Yeah, like many of us, right? When learning about Bitcoin, Chancellor on the brink of second bailout for banks. Why was that in the Genesis block? Well, it was such a pivotal time. And we saw in the financial crisis that a very select few people got to pick winners and losers. And some of the biggest losers of the financial crisis were your everyday workers and wage earners. So, in the ethos of Bitcoin in itself, the actual Genesis block, it's making a statement saying, hey, this thing is for workers and wage earners to have a tool to protect their wealth, their time, their energy. So when you talk about incentive alignment, it can't be more clear than that. And so our mission at Proof of Workforce, as you mentioned, we are going to make sure that workers and wage earners are along for the ride in Bitcoin, and that in 10 years, when this potential outcome like Cathie Wood is mentioning occurs, that workers and wage earners are not left behind, that they will have found Bitcoin and found a way to protect their time, their energy. We just saw higher than expected inflation numbers, right? So now I have this new saying, 2% raise is the new pay cut. That used to be the industry standard for like a pay raise adjustment to keep up with inflation. But now the 2% raise is the new pay cut. And we're helping workers find Bitcoin. Unions exist. They're kind of, forget about the bigger unions, because I know a lot of people only see these national unions that are very large, but I want you to think more about the smaller unions at the local and state level. They're just groups of organized workers that take care of each other. They have organizations that, help them get good contracts, keep up with inflation, etc. These are the folks that are coming onto Bitcoin. So the news, which was huge, huge today. I don't like to use huge, huge breaking because got to be careful. So I'll roll back to single huge breaking. But the first law enforcement association in the United States just approved putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Since that has occurred, prior to that, it was all firefighter unions that were doing so. So we now have breached outside of a single sector of workers and wage earners to another sector. We're still in public safety, but we now have law enforcement. This is going to obviously wake up a lot of other law enforcement agencies. There's 1.2 million officers in the United States, and we have things going on with other sectors on the private side. So um, this is a huge development because the first step is the hardest. And we saw within the firefighters that the first union to get off led to another four following and another two globally following. So this is going to probably take a similar course. So again, we will not stop working. The proof of work is relentless, and we're going to make sure that workers and wage earners find this thing called Bitcoin.
Hell yeah. I mean, Bitcoin is the money for the middle class. Like, Bitcoin is the money for the middle class. So it doesn't surprise me that, one union starts to feel the benefits of Bitcoin, and then they look at another union and they say, hey, you know what, guys, this is probably a good idea. And then I think it will reach a critical mass. Like, it'll start to snowball. So yeah, what you guys are doing over there, Dom, is absolutely incredible. Guys, go check out proofofworkforce.org. They recently launched a YouTube channel. We're going to be talking about that during the culture. So you guys got to subscribe to that for the latest news about what Dom is doing. So, Opti, I don't know if you want to chime in. Is Cathie Wood bullish or bearish with her $1.5 million prediction?
Well, it's also 1.5 mil by 2030, right?
Yes.
That's her bull case. I mean, it's hard to say she's not bull tarded on this, but yeah, I even 1.5 mil by 2030, and I think I'm as bullish as anyone else. In 5 years, that seems still kind of like out there. I think the $1 million meme right now is the new 100K meme that we all dealt with in 2021. So it feels the same thing to me. So I think it is a little bullish, but I don't want the chat to throw tomatoes at me and call me a bear here, because that's usually Nico's job. But I love you know, how she said it, because she has been kind of doubling down on this idea and her analysis on $1.5 million to 2030. And like she said, you know, everyone kind of latched on to 1.5 mil by 2030, and that's kind of the meme that gets passed around on the internet. But as she was saying in that clip, from all of the data points that she's seeing, you know, her percentage of that actually happening is starting to increase. And obviously none of us have a crystal ball, but considering all the different things that are playing out right now, it does seem like that is a likely thing that will play out. Is it going to be a similar cycle of the past? Obviously we don't know. It seems like the Bitcoin price is doing this like stair stepping now, where it you know, it pumps and then it goes sideways and then it pumps and goes sideways. So is this the new format for the Bitcoin price to continue to appreciate? Or are we going to see a crazy end of 2025? Again, I think all of these answers will be, or all of these questions will be answered by the end of this year, and we'll kind of have a better idea of what's going on. But it is very interesting that we're no longer really in the 2017 cycle where the Bitcoin price is being driven by retail. It seems like we're entering a new realm, like Cathie Woods was saying, where it's institutional capital or institutional interests or nation states that seem to be driving the Bitcoin price, because there is a lot of correlations between other macro assets and Bitcoin right now. Like even yesterday or this morning, you know, the inflation numbers came in a little hotter than people thought, and the Bitcoin price dumped when it should have been, you know, either holding steady or going up. So there is this correlation right now, even though that Bitcoin is the quote unquote risk off asset that we believe it is. In the meantime, it still seems to have some correlation with traditional markets, but we'll see what happens by the end of this year. So, you know, I do love a $1.5 million Bitcoin prediction in 5 years. That sounds great to me. But I love the fact that she's saying, hey, it looks like my percentage of this happening is starting to increase with all the data. Again, we don't have crystal balls, but it is very interesting to see more of us become bullish in the face of everyone still kind of having PTSD. Jump in, Dom.
Well, we got to remember too that $1.5 million in 5 years is not going to be $1.5 million on itself. Hard stop, right? So if you take a conservative 5% inflation rate for 5 years at 25% in 5 years, $1.5 million is actually going to be $1.125 million. So Cathie Wood probably is also factoring that into her you know, price call, in that again 1.5 is not going to be 1.5. So we may be sitting there being like 1.5, like it's crazy, I'm going to go get 2 Tacoma trucks, you know, and you're like, all right, like, so we got to factor that in too, because you know, oftentimes we miss that when we're factoring in price, that dollars aren't going to be anywhere close to the same value.
Well, it's also,
Absolutely.
Dom, I mean, to your point, though, most of the predictions are, well, actually, I'm not going to put words in their mouth, but I think when she does this 1.5 million prediction, yes, we're talking about $1.5 million per Bitcoin, but I think we're all kind of, the given is, or is this idea that it's going to be 1.5 million of purchasing power. So, hey, does that mean it's hyperinflating, or does that mean that Bitcoin can still buy you $1.5 million of goods? I guess we won't know until it happens.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's going to be interesting. Not regardless of what happens, better to be on the Bitcoin ride with Bitcoin than without. That's it.
Absolutely.
Facts.
Absolutely.